There's no sport other than football where positional fits matter more. Big guys, they're in the trenches. Guys with butterfingers, they play corner. Guys with strong legs, put them at kicker. However, there's some exception to this, as some guys are versatile enough to play multiple positions, even at the highest level, and no one's done that better this season than Falcons offensive weapon Cordarrelle Patterson. Through playing a combination of running back, wide receiver, and kick returner, Patterson is having a career breakout at 30 years old, and in today's video, I'd like to break down this offensive weapon's insane up and down career and why he's finally breaking out. Now, before we get into the video, if you guys could quickly subscribe and like the video, that'd be greatly appreciated. March 11th, 2013. In a blockbuster move, the Seahawks sent a first-round pick and two others to Minnesota to acquire the electric offensive weapon, Percy Harvin, after he demanded a trade. Harvin was a guy who was always a threat to score every time he touched the ball. Whether it was through the air, on the ground, or during return, he had a rare skill set that would be dearly missed in Minnesota. And with this gaping hole left in the roster, the Vikings needed to replace him and fast, and they looked no further than the 2013 NFL Draft. Down at the University of Tennessee, there was a prospect by the name of Cordarrelle Patterson. He embodied all the previously aforementioned traits the Vikings had seen in Harvin. He was dominant in the run game, carrying the ball through SEC front sevens, could run a vertical to take the top off a defense, and was a threat to take a kick back to the house every game. He ultimately finished his one and only season at Tennessee with 1,858 all-purpose yards and 10 total touchdowns, cementing himself as an elite NFL prospect. As the draft approached, the hype for Patterson continued to build. After wowing scouts at the Combine, he was said to have the best combination of size and speed of any receiver in the 2013 NFL Draft, and he has the ability to break off a long touchdown on any occasion when he touches the ball. Now, bear in mind, this was a class with DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, and Robert Woods. Everyone could see that he looked like the next Percy Harvin. It was soon a popular take in NFL circles that the Vikings would select him in the first round of the draft to replace the man himself. And, to no one's surprise, with the 29th pick in the draft, the Vikings sent their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 7th round selections to New England in exchange for the rights to select Cordarrelle. Going into his rookie year under head coach Leslie Frazier and offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave, expectations were high. General manager Rick Spielman even came out and said, "We feel this guy can do just as much as Percy can as a returner. We are excited not only what he can bring as a receiver, but also what he can potentially bring as a returner as well." The bar had been set high, and Cordarrelle would have to deliver an excellent rookie season to live up to the standard Percy had set, and he certainly did.
Swinging down 11, Khalil with the good block, going deep for Patterson. What a catch! Working on screen.
Looks like they want to do something fancy. Patterson will throw it, no. He elects to run it. Gets a block. Patterson outside, flag on the play. Patterson still on his feet. Gets into the end zone for a touchdown.
Patterson finished his rookie season with 2,020 all-purpose yards, 9 total touchdowns, the NFL record for the longest kickoff return touchdown, and an all-pro nod. This was shaping up to be the beginning of a phenomenal NFL career, until it wasn't. Now, while Patterson had an incredible season, the Vikings hadn't. Going 5-10-1, they did a complete overhaul and brought in a new head coach, offensive coordinator, and QB. Now, while these moves certainly boded well for the Vikings, as they improved to 7-9 in 2014, they didn't for Patterson. In his second season, he only accounted for 501 offensive yards and a measly 2 touchdowns, as the new coaching staff preferred to play receivers such as Greg Jennings and Charles Johnson over Patterson, relegating him to return duties. Ultimately, his sophomore year went so poorly that the Vikings even tried to trade him in the offseason after he supposedly couldn't learn the playbook. 2015 would be rock bottom for Cordarrelle, as the Vikings continued to improve, finishing with an 11-5 record and making the playoffs for the first time since 2012. Cordarrelle went in the opposite direction, being buried even deeper on the depth chart with the additions of Stephon Diggs and Mike Wallace. He finished with his worst season yet, totaling a mere 25 offensive yards despite playing in all 16 games. It was apparent the Vikings didn't need him to succeed. The following season, Cordarrelle did bounce back with a Pro Bowl year as a returner, and accumulated 1,245 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns. But it was apparent neither side was happy, as Patterson complained, saying he spent 2 years on the sideline and that'll take his talents elsewhere, and the Vikings obviously weren't interested in retaining him, as they let him walk in free agency. Following his tenure in Minnesota, Patterson headed to the Raiders on a 2-year deal for the 2017 season, where he posted only 430 offensive yards and 2 touchdowns. It was his 4th unimpressive season in a row. He looked like a massive bust at this point. He had never come anywhere close to Harvin and appeared doomed to be a career return man, until the man that values versatility overall saw a diamond in the rough and decided to take a chance on him.
Some breaking news as the New England Patriots have acquired Cordarrelle Patterson from the Oakland Raiders for an exchange of late-round draft picks.
Following the departure of Dion Lewis in the 2018 offseason, the Patriots needed a new kick returner. And with the amount of emphasis Bill Belichick has put on his players being versatile throughout his coaching career, Patterson seemed like the perfect Patriot and the perfect match. Upon his arrival in New England, Belichick told him, "We're going to make you the player that you should be." And that was certainly true.
And something like that gets called against you, you get backed up. 15-yarder. Screen to Patterson. Made a man miss. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots. Against Aaron Rodgers. Shut out so far. Brady throws. Has Patterson. A bobble. And a catch. And a salute.
Bill delivered on his word, making Patterson finally look like his old self, as they utilized him in the passing, running, and returning game. He accumulated 1,138 all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns on his way to the Super Bowl, with him contributing in every playoff game, including a 38-yard return in Super Bowl 53. After his tenure in New England, Cordarrelle signed with the Bears on a 2-year, $10 million deal, and it looked as though he'd settled into the role of a permanent returner for the rest of his career, as he made the All-Pro team in both 2019 and 2020, but was once again misused on offense. He easily could have accepted this role and become complacent. I mean, he was a 4-time first-team All-Pro, had a Super Bowl ring, and honestly an argument to make the Hall of Fame as a returner. Yet, he still yearned to be the focal point of an offense, asking for a heavier workload in Chicago in 2020, and even saying, "Last year didn't go as planned at running back. Hopefully this year will go better." Now, as a 30-year-old free agent, he'd have one more chance to try and break out. Heading into the 2021 offseason, there wasn't a lot of demand for the 30-year-old kick returner, as he flew right under the radar, garnering minimal interest and settling for a $3 million deal with Atlanta to back up newly signed running back Mike Davis. However, as the season began, the title of backup didn't last too long. Now, as you're probably aware, Patterson has finally broken out in his 9th season. The man that not even Bill Belichick completely unlocked has been cracked by Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons. And for the first time in his career, he's been utilized correctly. And to show how, I'd like to hand it off to fellow YouTuber, Jackson Kruger Sports.
I think to best understand Patterson, the easiest way to do it is to focus on what he does best. So let's use his insane kickoff return skills as an example of what traits he has. On this play, he's going to make the catch inside his own end zone, and watch him while at top speed make a single cut, and then he's going to break a tackle, and from that point he has the speed to go the rest of the way. It's really that main thing, his ability to have insane speed and also change directions at that speed. So how can that come into play as an offensive player? Well, let's use this as an example. This is from this season, where what's going to happen is it's a relatively simple idea, but it logically makes sense. The New Orleans Saints are playing a cover 1 play right here, so that means just a single safety deep. They do have another safety kind of covering the middle of the field area, and it's actually just a 3-man rush, so it's going to be very hard to work over the middle of the field. You're going to want to work towards the sideline here. And so for someone like Patterson, this is a great situation, right? I mean, he can be on the sideline and use his insane speed to try and get open. Look, right when this play starts, Patterson does going to kind of use that shiftiness he has. He gets wide open, and they're able to make a catch and pick up a big gain on that one. Now let's go over here. That seems obvious, but honestly, it's not what a lot of teams would do with Patterson, and this play is a good example of exactly that. So Cincinnati is in a cover 3 zone right here, but but it's essentially going to be the same thing as the last concept I just showed you. There still is just one safety deep, and the corner who's in charge of covering the deep right corner for the offense's perspective, which is going to be the bottom right hand corner of your screen. He's playing press coverage, so this is essentially the same thing as if this was a cover one man, which you just saw. This is in Patterson's rookie season, and clearly they didn't really know how to use him in this spot. These are the kind of situations where you want him to be able to use his insane speed to your advantage and his insane acceleration to your advantage. His 40 time was a 4.42, which isn't anything like outstanding, but when you add on the acceleration he has and his ability to move while at a top speed, that just, it makes it so dangerous. However, Patterson's just running a slant route here, which he isn't as good at, and that gets covered up nicely. So right there, you had a good opportunity to use Patterson, they just didn't know it. Let's fast forward a few years. Early on, really that offense was built around Adrian Peterson. Patterson didn't get too many opportunities to win one-on-one matchups, and then later on, they had Diggs and Thielen. This play is a great example where you see Patterson, he's just running a setup route right here to try to beat the zone coverage, whereas now Thielen on the other side of the field is the guy who's trying to win one-on-one. And once this play starts, you're going to notice Thielen does win one-on-one. So Patterson kind of just never got an opportunity to show what he can do. He was quite frankly just considered a gadget player who couldn't do much else and could maybe contribute a little bit on offense, but not too much. He's mostly a special teams guy. So that's what a lot of Atlanta is doing well with him. They'll line him up as a halfback on certain plays, but then have him be able to, use that favorable matchup to get open with his great speed and acceleration. I think too many teams focus too much on what he does poorly and not enough on what he did well.
Now, this utilization isn't just showing up on the field. It's also on the stat sheet, as Patterson already has 278 rushing yards, 459 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns through 8 games. If you were to put these numbers over 17 games, he finished with 591 rushing yards, 975 receiving yards, and 15 touchdowns. And as you can tell from the charts I've shown, these are career highs, and it isn't even close. These numbers are so shocking that not even Cordarrelle himself would have predicted this. Just take a look at his fantasy football rankings. Heading into the year, his average draft position was 263rd. For reference, Tim Tebow's was 256. Yet, this season, he's averaged 19.2 points per game, good for the 6th highest among all running backs. And with Derrick Henry out, he could easily be fantasy's highest scoring running back this season. So, after seeing this data about Cordarrelle and realizing how astonishing this late career renaissance is, the best thing I can compare him to is a fine bottle of wine. He's slowly been fermenting over the past 8 years and is finally ready to be enjoyed by NFL fans. And as they say, I'm like a fine wine. I get better with age. The best is yet to come.